Welcome back. Now for a look at the 7 elements that go into making up the solid foundation of athleticism, or I'm also going to refer to it as coordination. The important thing to remember here is the 7 elements that we'll discuss in a minute are going to link up with each other to create that coordination. But they are individual elements, they are individual of each other, they stand alone. So we'll have a look at the model. I'll step out of the picture and I'll enter all the elements onto the model. But before I do that, one thing to remember, very profound here, is being cricket specific. So focusing in on cricket technique too early and just the individual characteristics of skill, catching, batting, bowling will limit the foundation and the strength and the base of their athleticism. So please just have a look at the elements and try and include these all in your child's development. So I'll have a look at the model. Now, as you can see, these elements all link up to each other, but they stand alone. To miss one element out will make this base, make this whole picture a little less complete. So that is their coordination, athleticism base. So the first element we'll add in is Mr. Rhythm. Now I find this one the hardest to define, but it's easier described in an activity. So firstly, in definition, rhythm is the certain parts of all movements that is carried out in relation to time or timing. Easier explained in the activity of skipping, jumping rope, where the young child or the participant has to jump that rope to allow the rope to come underneath them. That is in timing in relation to that element or that movement. Timing is very important for cricket, batting, bowling, even fielding. So very important element, rhythm. The next one we're going to add in up the top, and by the way, these are in no specific order of importance. They all link up, they're all important. Spatial awareness. This is when the athlete displays or has the ability to know and be aware of external objects around him or her. So anything in their environment they must be aware of when they're developing or playing a game, any movement challenges they're facing. Let's use catching as an example. Catching's not easy, but easy example of the tennis ball. Just start them catching on 2 legs, obviously. Then move to 1 leg. Then start them catching up above their head. Then turning around a full circle before they catch. Jumping as they're catching. That's an example of how to develop spatial awareness very basically. That's a good way to start. Next element, reactivity. So as the name suggests, the child learns to react to visual or audio stimuli or reactions to instructions. Such things easily done, directing a child to run to the left or the right, either looking at you, then they're not facing you, or even just holding your hand, they're running towards you, holding your arms out left or right, whichever way you want them to run, is a basic way to develop or start developing reactivity. So reactivity is quite easy to explain. You can even, and as they get more advanced, you know, they can start from laying on the ground and reacting to stimuli then, or reacting to responses. The next one, down a bit, we have strength requirements. Can also be called kinesthetic development, but we're just going to call it strength requirements. It's a lot easier to remember. Now we have this has a very important part part to play in coordination or athleticism. To have the ability, strength requirements is to have the ability, or the athlete to have the ability to know how much force is required to achieve any outcome in movement. So let's use jumping. If we don't develop strength requirements, or we're not quite optimal in this area, jumping from one spot to another requires us to know how much strength is required to fuel or to power that jump. Easily developed in a jumping sense in this example. Move the objects that they're jumping to, or the markers, so they're further away, closer, so they have to determine or differentiate how much strength is required. We can use throwing to different people at different markers or different distances away from them. So they learn to know how much strength is required. Next one of my favourites, you won't find a lot of talk about this one, is ambidexterity, or just using the right and left hand sides of the body. I have a vision of left hand, right hand batsmen, left and right hand bowlers, left and right hand fielders, throwers. I find this exciting because to think of a cricketer that can bat, bowl and field, throw, left and right hand, I just find this exciting. It's not done. You'll find a few that can do it. David Warner comes to example. But the key to this element is it needs to be implemented very young, very early in the young cricketers, so the development of life. Everyone grows up to know or think they're right-handed or left-handed. If you start from a very young age, they don't know, not to know whether they're right or left-handed. They just grow up to be both. They get them thinking it's normal to be left and right-handed, in their batting, in their bowling. It's not fun. It adds a lot of variation to the process of cricket development. Next one, balance. So this doesn't need much explanation. However, what I will say, there is a specific order of, I suppose, a special order to follow when we're implementing balance or developing balance. We must start from when balance is being developed from the ground. So we're going to be on all fours, and we're standing still. So if we're catching, we want to be on all fours, or we're developing balance on all fours to balance first, and then we stand up, and then we go to one leg, and then we go to movement or dynamic, being dynamic. Now, to remember this, easily way to remember it is, as we all develop in our life, we start crawling, then we stand up, start walking, and then we run around, and we jump, and we hop. So follow that order in any skills or any movement challenges, so their balance gets developed in that order. Otherwise, you're going to miss out a part of the development process. Now the last, but not least, is movement adequacy. This is where less energy is used up in their movements, or movement challenges. Whatever they're doing, if they have movement adequacy, they're using less energy. Inadequate movements will have them and all their energy wasted on just trying to move as best they can. So just look at the great athletes of the sporting world, Michael Jordans, Roger Federers, even the Ricky Pontings, those sort of players. They move really well. They're cat-like in their movements. They display wonderful movement adequacy. Very important in cricket. Obviously, if you're batting, bowling and fielding all day, you need your movement adequacy. And around drills in their cricket training. If they don't have proper movement adequacy, or they're not moving adequately, injuries will occur. They'll get tired quicker than the others, and they'll just lose the ability to keep their technique. So there's the 7 elements. So I hope you've got these down. They will be sent to you if you're